using a laser to aim ourselves on a regular basis, we probably are rarely going to do that. But what we really need to be able to do is hit what we think we're aiming and hit it where we think we're going. Because if I'm aimed way over here, but I think I'm aimed at that coin and I can hit that coin every time, do I care that I'm aimed way over here? Absolutely not. Because this is not the type of a shot that requires a big motion. It requires a range of motion probably at maximum this big, and that's if the greens are very big and very slow. So that is your block practice to make sure you're doing it right, just like we talked about block practice with in our very first lesson with full swing stuff, making sure you're doing it right, with your pitching and stuff, making sure you're getting it going back on plane. Same thing here. This is your block practice to make sure you're doing it correctly. Now, when it comes down to longer putts, putts of distance, when we get out in that 20, 30, 40 feet, then it becomes a little bit more about speed than anything else. Now, obviously, speed and line kind of go together, don't they? So here is your drill for longer putts, putts of distance. Except, Jeremy, this will be for your left hand. It can be for your right, too. One hand gets the putter swinging freely. Gets the putter swinging freely. It's hard. Acceleration this way or too big a swing back this way if you've just got one hand on it. I think at some point I've talked to all of you about putting, or at least most of you about putting. Talk about it in terms of tempo. When it comes to practice time, we want to keep it relatively simple. When you start practicing, once you feel like you've kind of got the block practice, in other words, you feel like you're making your move correctly, then it's time to move on to making your practice a little bit more about transferring it from here to the golf course. In other words, we're going to say, all right, well, I'm out on the golf course, I'm going to hit a driver and this is my fairway, and then maybe I'm going to move on to a 7-iron because that might be my club of choice for the second shot on number 1. We might bounce around to different targets, changing clubs constantly, challenging ourselves to not just get kind of in a rhythm with one particular club. And then finally, we're going to close our practice with a little bit of game practice. In other words, you're going to challenge yourself on maybe a pass-fail basis. 5 shots. Okay, I've got 5 shots with this 7-iron to this target. Let me see if I can get to 60% or 80% of 5 shots or 10 shots, whatever that number is comfortable for you. But then give yourself a barometer. Give yourself, okay, this is my pass-fail score. This is where okay, so I got 60% last time, I want 80% this time. But when you're talking about assessing your practice and the success of your practice or the success of your score on the golf course, it doesn't necessarily always come down to the number. If you can run through each hole that you play during the course of a round and say, okay, here was my pass-fail score for the shots on this hole, here was my pass-fail score for the shots on this hole, and come up with that score for yourself too, you may assess yourself and your progress a little bit differently.